Hello, everybody. Welcome to uh, another episode of the Get the Flick Out of Here podcast. I'm sick. I'm very sick. I've been sick all week, and I thought I would be better by today. I'm not. Um, uh, but we wanted to do this one this week because it is timely. No more reviewing 35-year-old movies for this show. We're we're doing something timely. And so we are reviewing Weird, the Al Yankovic story, starring Harry Potter as Weird Al Yankovic. Um, it is it's free on the Roku channel. If you don't have a Roku, you can go to the RokuChannel.com and watch it there. There are ads, which kind of breaks up the flow of everything, but it's fine. It's free. And it's like nothing I've ever seen. But it's indomitably Weird Al through and through. He co-wrote it, he produced it, he co-stars in it, and he sings all his own songs because whenever Daniel Radcliffe sings a song, he opens his mouth and out comes Weird Al, and it's perfect. It's exactly what it should be. But because I'm under the weather, wonderful Kate Elizabeth will be taking point on this one. So here we go.
Yeah, we will. This will be a little more abbreviated in the interest of time and Alex's voice.
Well, and also, I don't want to usually when we do things that are 35 years old, I assume people have seen it.
Yes.
Or that if they haven't yet, they're not gonna. Now, I don't want to spoil everything. So I want to give them like a rundown and tell them like the style of what they're trying to go for without like giving away major plot points. Spoiler alert, none of the things that happen in this biography movie are real. So
correct, yeah.
That's what's fun about it.
So this was, like you said, something I've never seen before. And I also was like, it's kind of good that this is like a more abbreviated one because I don't think it needs it. And I think a lot of times that we have long ones that spent, other than Team America, probably spent mostly like tearing them apart. And I don't think there's a ton to tear apart in it because even if this brand of humor isn't for you, like fundamentally, it's, I think, a really good movie and what it's setting out to accomplish. To your point, I think the closest thing that I've ever seen to this was probably the Dewey Cox story.
Yeah, Walk Hard. Yeah.
Walk Hard was so good, but what's fun about this and completely different about this is there is an actual storied career of Weird Al. And this chooses to really not talk about much of any of that, which I really, really appreciated. Some of the things that did overlap with Dewey Cox and like stylistically popped me tremendously, which we can get into like at the beginning of this. But overall, the things that I loved about it were it felt, like you said, exactly like Weird Al. Like this felt like anything that I felt like was missing from UHF, I feel like I got in this, which was like a little bit more of Weird Al's music and Weird Alism. And I was pretty blown away by, as you called him, Harry Potter. In this, I thought he was fantastic, man. Like he did such a good job, and what an awesome actor. I feel like so many times, right, with child actors, we see it go a few ways. One, a tragic downfall. Two, they're not that good and they were just cute. Or this more rare instance where I think he wants to be an actor and is very good at it. This, what a fun little thing to sit in his body of work because there'll never be anything similar to it again. I thought he was great. What did you think kind of overall before we dive in fully?
Well, I really enjoyed it. There were points where I know I should have been laughing, but I was too mesmerized by the artistry of it and the cleverness of the joke. I was like, wow, that's really something. And there were times I did laugh, but a lot of it was just like watching just the artistry of the buffoonery was just so fantastic. And also the moments like that it is played like unflinchingly straight.
Yes.
Adds to the laughs of it so much, of like where in the very beginning, because it starts out with him as a very young boy, maybe 9-10 years old, and his very fundamentalist type parents, and his mother, who means well. She loves him, but she has to do whatever her husband tells her to do, kind of a thing. But she comes into his room and finds him hiding under the covers, listening to a comedy radio show. So your father wouldn't like that. Turn that. No, go to bed. Get ready to go to school. And then she is making his bed and reaches down behind the bed, and this is the spot in the in the regular music biopic movie where she would pull out like a stash of drugs or an album of a rock band that he knows he shouldn't be listening to, and then she gets all pallid faced and looks back at the door and fetches a sigh and goes, "Oh my God, my son is changing, and what am I going to do?" But the thing that she pulls out is not any of those things, but instead a Hawaiian shirt. And she has the same reaction to the Hawaiian shirt that another mother in another movie might have to a stash of drugs. And that's when I knew I was going to love the film, because they know exactly who they're making the movie for and what they're making the movie about. And it was really just really well. Like there's a running gag about how his dad works at the factory.
Factory, yeah.
My father worked at the factory. His father worked at the factory, and damn it, you're going to work at the factory because you're a Yankovic. What do you even make there, Dad? I don't even know what happens at the factory, and nobody ever finds out what they make there.
Nobody ever finds out what they make.
Nope.
It is very, very fun, and those opening scenes are exactly what you just said. Like, and so much of this has been like, making like the accordion something that's really sexy. But there is a lot of Weird Al's parents saying like, just stop being who you are and doing the things that you love.
Yes.
Which is really, really fun. And we like just this whole notion. And again, I don't want to give like too much away, but like the idea that playing the accordion is like this sin, and you can kind of tell there's something in their past about the accordion. Like you can feel it in the acting performance, which is so great.
Yes. And by the end of the film, we find out what that is for the father. It's very, very explicit. There's a long monologue. There's very interesting artistry of like, it's all done through illustrations. And I don't know why it wasn't obvious to me the whole movie, but it is perfect, and it absolutely encapsulates everything that it should be. And by the end of the film, it is the largest time jump that is not actually accurate that we have in the film, which I love a lot. But the whole thing, he keeps referring to the accordion as a squeeze box. Don't you bring that blasphemous squeeze box in my house. The mother allows him to get an accordion, and he practices it in the closet quietly. But when he's a teenager, all of his friends invite him to a polka party. Like, I can't go to a polka party. My parents will flip. Like, it's a rock musician party in another movie. And then when he's there, all the girls are raving about the new album from, whatever his name is, who's an actual accordion player and polka player. And they find an accordion, and they're like daring him to try it. And so when he does, he busts out this amazing, like, little accordion solo, which is in the other movie. Like, if you gave a guy a guitar and he was like, and like everyone's blown away, and then someone pops in the front door, the cops are here, run, because we had to bust up the polka party. It's really, so it's where the early moments, I think, of this really where the film shines, and like telling you what the rest of the movie is going to be, which is absolutely unbridled silliness.
Yep, that's exactly what I have in my notes too, of just like this scene was almost the perfect microcosm of the whole movie because, one, if you know Weird Al's discography, like Polka Party was an album in there, which is just fun. So I love that they brought that to life. This trope of the forbidden nature of the accordion is so much fun, and they really hammer it home. He's got the classic getting dragged back into the house by the cops scene after this, and his parents are just so disappointed in him. Earlier in this too, we also get a really great scene of young Al, an accordion salesman, those door-to-door accordion salesmen walk into one of them walks into the house and is looking to sell one to the dad, but realizes that the vulnerable kid is there. And the dad, as we were noting, this is obviously a hot button issue. It really comes to life here, where he beats the hell out of an accordion salesman, saying that it's the devil's squeeze box, who's played by, I always forget his name, but the phenomenal actor who's in Reno 911 and has so many similar parts. Like
Thomas Lennon is the name of the
Thomas
actor
Lennon,
the accordion salesman.
Always perfect in whatever he is, and like a scene stealer, but never. I mean, I guess in Reno 911 he was like extremely flamboyant, but like never in an overpowering the scene way. Just like always perfectly placed in stuff like this. That was one of my favorite scenes in the movie because the mom, to try and rectify the fact that her husband just assaulted this accordion salesman, offers to buy Al the accordion, but he also is laying there with a collapsed lung, and we could assume probably died. But I just loved that they even played into the origin story of how Al finally, after the accordion, this forbidden instrument in the house, is able to get his hands on one. It's because his dad beat the hell out of a door-to-door accordion salesman who they tried to buy off the accordion, to then him laying on the floor bloody, saying he has a collapsed lung and dying. So like just all of these fantastic tropes, but also like justifying the plot of the movie as we go along a little bit, because like this forbidden instrument, the mom caved and finally got him one, and we find him be a prodigy. He's going to these polka parties, right? And then eventually his love for the polka forces him to leave the house here and go to college. Or he's at least rooming with college age dudes in an apartment with 3 roommates: Steve, Jim, and Bermuda, Spencer Treat Clark, Jack Lancaster, and Tommy O'Brien. And we see him auditioning for a band, a traditional band, and mohawked guy,
a punk band, not a polka band. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, you see like dude with a mohawk, they're auditioning people to join the band, and he's just out there playing his accordion, and like the sincerity with which Daniel Radcliffe is like, did I get it? Did I get the gig? To find out that while they're sincerely intrigued by this accordion player, they for some reason think it's not gonna fit in with the band. And then we move along to him writing his own song, which of course is not his own song. It's My Bologna, the My Sharona ripoff. And there's this really, really great, again, just the ability to play parody so straight and lean into the absurdity of the fact that this is around a parody accordion player comes to life so much here. And no more than with these roommates who are like, we gotta lay it down. Like, felt very much like That Thing You Do, or like this like innocence that's wrapped in them recording his accordion parody song in the bathroom to get the acoustics right, and then sending that to the DJ is so perfect.
The thing that I love about it is that he truly did record his first single in a public bathroom at the bus station because the acoustics were so good, and he had no money for a recording studio. That is like one of the one things they got. They deliberately said, this is the truth. I love this scene where he does his first parody thing because he it's almost like A Beautiful Mind.
Yes.
Where like he's listening to My Sharona on the radio, and looking at a package of My Bologna, which is whichever one of the three guys is like, yeah, sure, just open up a package of My Bologna and we'll make us some sandwiches or whatever. And so he's looking at it and he's just like he's making it up in his head. Like it's like you can see the gears turning. I almost wish that they had done the meme of all the equations like going around his head as he was doing it. But like all the guys in there watching him go, oh my God. We're watching
the genius happen. Yeah.
And then he does the thing, like he plays the first beginning of it, and they're like, what did you just do? Like as though that they could never have thought of it. It's so good. And when he sends it off to the DJ who plays it, like he sends it off, comes back to the apartment, and 2 minutes later, the radio is playing the song, which is not how the mail works. But the DJ's playing a song like this song is a huge hit. And like the DJ can just declare it's a huge hit, which does honestly kind of feel like that's how it works in some of these music biopics, you know, like the DJ just says this is a hit and that's it. It's a hit. But he gets his first gig off the back of that song. And when he's playing it, he's understandably very nervous because somehow they give him a gig at a punk bar. And the band that rejected him gets booed off the stage. And everyone there, it seems to be more of a punk type thing. So I'm really scared about this. Now, you have to know there has never been any inkling from any of the other roommates that they are at all musically inclined.
Not even close.
No, not one of them said, "Hey, I play the drums. I play the drums. Maybe I'll lay down a track with you with your My Sharona thing." Nope, that never happened. So like they all are backstage watching him go out there and have like stage fright. He says he needs us, and they all just go on stage, pick up scattered instruments, and start playing brilliantly, and play along with it, and the crowd loves it. Patton Oswalt is playing a bystander in the bar, and he starts crying because it's just so beautiful. His cover of My Sharona as My Bologna. He also plays I Love Rocky Road.
Yes.
Which is, of course, is a parody of I Love Rock and Roll. And there's this giant woman who goes into the bartender and says, "I'll take 2 scoops of rum raisin. We don't sell ice cream here." "Well, you better before the end of this song or you're going to have a riot on your hands." Some really good stuff.
It's so good.
Really good stuff.
What I love that so little of this is real, but there's probably like hints of real stuff. Like I would guess in like the Beautiful Mind sequence that you were describing, like I bet Weird Al probably like hears or sees something and is like, huh, and then writes it out. But like the like conjuring of his genius thoughts was so much fun here. And then you get things like this, yes, of the roommates like coming in from out of nowhere to save the day and play the there's a million cameos in here. Later we find out Josh Groban's a waiter for literally no reason at all. He has like 2 lines as the waiter. And of course this leads to the next plot point in any music biopic. And again, coming back to something a little bit more sincere with Dr. Demento, who's played perfectly by Rainn Wilson, is sitting in the back of this, I can't just emphasize enough, grungy punk bar in his Dr. Demento outfit, his top hat and his suit, and he's just sitting there to discover the next great comedic parody talent at this punk bar. And that's kind of where we see the first of it, which is just so much fantastic fun. And I love how organically they are weaving in organically here and then hysterically later organically forced in the songs that he's created. Like this makes it feel like a sincere Weird Al biopic, but to do a sincere Weird Al biopic, nothing about it has to be real. So, but we do get I Love Rocky Road. We got Another One Rides the Bus.
That one is done at the pool party, which is a direct ripoff of the pool party scene from Boogie Nights with the same music and everything. but instead of walking around and meeting all these other porn stars, he meets Pee Wee Herman, and Salvador Dali is there, played by Emo Phillips, who's talking to Andy Warhol, played by Conan O'Brien. Wolfman Jack, the very popular DJ, played by Jack Black, and everyone's doubting him and his accordion playing. So, all right, accordion player, Wonder Boy, why don't you make me up a song right now? What song should he do? Anybody in the peanut gallery behind me? And hear a voice go, do another one rides the bus. And the guy steps out, and it's a very, if you've seen any movie from the last 15 years, this guy's probably been in it. I don't know what his name is, but he says, I'm John Deacon. Like, what? I play the bass for Queen. Oh, okay, cool. All right, but do another one rides the bus, fine. And so on the spot, immediately he comes up with which again is one of my all-time favorite Weird Al. So just the way it's all put down is so good. But he sings basically the whole song on the spot, and everyone in the round somehow has like little improvised instruments, and they're playing along with him. There's somebody pretending to be Grace Jones, has one of those little things where you go hit it and goes like it's just tambourines, cowbells. Everyone's there doing this. And then John Deacon's like, that was truly amazing. Queen, we're playing Live Aid. We'd love for you to come on stage and play that song with us. And Weird Al's like, fat chance, no way.
It's so good.
It's so good.
Adored how much. And before this is like preceded by we'll talk about the scenes Weird Al's actually into, because those are of course pitch perfect, but there is like a more gradual rise to fame as you see here. But when I started realizing there's going to be a bunch of cameos, I was like, Jack Black has to be in this, because Jack Black was so influenced by Weird Al. There's no way he wasn't, with everything that he's done in not as much parody music, but definitely silly music and satirical on the genre of rock in general. Obviously, of School of Rock and everything, but I was like, Jack Black has to be in this somewhere, and for him to be playing the role of like, this kid doesn't have what it takes, I've spotted this before, is so great. And then also before the Another One Rides the Bus parody, we see the two of them walking away. We see the bassist from Queen and Jack Black being like, we knew it. And then he starts to play and they turn around in like the most perfectly dramatic fashion. It's one of my favorite scenes in the movie for so many reasons. And him blowing off Live Aid was hilarious to me. Like, especially if you know what that ended up being for Queen and Freddie Mercury. So just so much fun. We see him rising to fame, but not before we see him take his tape to the record company, which is about as token as the DJ who made him famous. And Weird Al and his lackey basically playing the record executives here, saying, what, you got one good song, kid? That's not enough to sustain a career, and rejecting him, which is one of the most important things in a biopic, is the rejection from the major label, I think. And for Weird Al to be in it on that side of things, I just thought was very fun. Because sincerely, I'm sure there were a lot of people that were like, you can't make a career doing this. Just a bunch of fun with that. And also throughout the movie, we get so much of him trying to make his factory dad happy, which ends up being the downfall of what we'll talk about in a little bit. But I just liked, we got a scene where he calls back home and he's like, essentially, I'm getting famous now. And the dear mother is like, okay, just so you know though, like, your dad's still not proud of you. I thought was like a really fun thing that she goes so far out of her way to let him know that his dad is still not at all proud. But Dr. Demento is holding his hand the whole way through this rise to fame. And we see him living in his like palatial estate. And one of the funniest swerves in this, or beginning of swerves in this, is that Madonna just shows up at his house and says, I'm Madonna. And immediately you're like, oh, this is like the perfect, played brilliantly too. Like Madonna has to be a bad influence, right? There's no way Madonna can be in something that's in a biopic and be anything other than a bad influence. But like this begins this whole narrative of like people trying to get the Weird Al rub, right? Because of parodies and him making other artists famous, it's not enough for him anymore because he's been told by the record label that this one song isn't enough to sustain him. So he's going to do an original song. He's going to break format. He's going to do an original song called Eat It. And then he gets a little bit of a taste of his own medicine, Alex, because this Michael Jackson kid from the Jackson 5, whoever this punk ass is, completely rips him off and does a parody called Beat It, which is not how that works at all. So that was a pretty devastating blow here. But I did want to pause and just talk about Madonna just showing up and being like, I'm Madonna, was hilarious to me. Him living in his like palatial estate was hilarious. He has a bust of himself at one point. And Dr. Demento was starting to slowly lose grip on this monster that he's helped raise here. All because he's in a chase to kind of satisfy his dad, the generic factory worker.
Right. The idea that you can never become a real famous or true artist writing lyrics to somebody else's song. You have to do your own one, which is why then he comes up with Eat It. He does it himself. It's all his own idea. And they ride that joke into the ground. And it's great.
So much. It is probably, I mean, he had a lot of albums before this, but like as far as ones to point to, like Weird Al's fame and Michael Jackson's fame, like the idea of Michael Jackson getting the rub from Weird Al when this was probably like maybe his biggest breakthrough hit at that point.
Right. Yeah.
Is a fun pinnacle.
It's so good because the idea of his parody of mine came out so soon after the release of my song. Everyone's probably going to think that I parodied him, but that's not what happened.
No, of course.
So good.
And Evan Rachel Wood as Madonna in this is unbelievable. She's so great. She's such a bad influence on him. He goes from I don't really drink to being an absolute mess of an alcoholic in the span of one scene. You got to have the scene where he says disparaging things to the members of his band. All his real friends have to walk out on him because you know he's in the booze and that succubus, that harpy, she's a bad influence on you. All the tropes are there, and it's all played brilliantly. And then the thing of it is that it's certainly around this point the story becomes like, you're like, okay, obviously this is a parody of some stuff. No, Beat It came first. We all know Beat It came first, right? And then it becomes like he has to go rescue Madonna from Pablo Escobar, who kidnapped her because Pablo Escobar wanted him to play at his birthday party. I don't want to go into all of that. I'm just saying that's the hard left turn the movie takes, and it feels absolutely warranted. And they nail every bit of it. It's unbelievable.
And it's so good. It is and honestly, I tease when I say Harry Potter is playing the part, but it's like obviously it's a thing he'll never get away from, you know. But if you see some of the stuff that he's done recently, like some really dark, interesting, introspective acting, like he's really come into his own in a lot of ways. And I love the idea that he wanted to do this because of the challenge of it, of playing Weird Al while in a scene with Weird Al by not playing Weird Al, because it's not really Weird Al. It's Weird Al's own like version of himself that he wanted to put in a movie. It's really, 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 really brilliant.
I'll also say two things that you were kind of like hinting on that I wanted to bring up that cracked me up specifically. There's a scene, he's never drank in his life, and she is literally feeding whiskey down his throat like multiple times in the movie. And they are like so in love, and you know it's because he wasn't getting love from his parents that he's finally found in Madonna. They make that abundantly clear. But at one point they sit down to dinner and he's like, do you think we're moving too fast? And she's like, no, this is the best 6 hours of my life or something. Like the closing the time gap was so funny. And to the scene that you alluded to with his bandmates, that came in the middle, Alex, of a 21-day residency at Madison Square Garden. The Knicks got kicked to some place in Jersey because he was just selling out MSG at such a rapid pace. And we start to learn that Madonna has this nefarious plan all along. We see the Like a Surgeon parody, which I think was my first recollection of as a kid hearing like a virgin, like a surgeon.
I think a lot of it is people's first exposure to Weird Al is whatever your music you're into at the time, real music. Somebody says, "Oh, you have to hear this parody version of the song."
Yes.
For me, it was "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Oh.
For me, it was "Smells Like Nirvana"
my
because it was just, which is honestly, it's brilliant in of itself. But the idea that I was into the whole grunge thing, and somebody was like, "You got to listen to this thing." I was like, "Weird Al, what?" And I was hooked. I was hooked from the very beginning, and I started listening to all of his stuff. And some of the stuff is so brilliant. There's one thing I will forget if I don't mention it. Somebody brought this up because it was the anniversary of the release of the song, or something like that. Whatever it was. The episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out, and then a month later, the video and song for his parody of Phantom Menace, sung to American Pie, came out. So he wrote it, recorded it, shot the video in a month, and that's ridiculous how fast his brain works that he could even write the song in a month.
It's a real long song.
It's an incredibly long song, and it delves into like very minute, tiny little details of the plot of the thing that you could only have if you had sat down and watched the film like 5 times in the theaters, which God help you. But the kind of way his brain works is just on a completely different level. And I love that he was able to spoof himself in how fast he works and how brilliant his mind is. Like he's like I said, but yes, I am genius. Like that kind of a thing.
And I did love like Madonna's whole thing. We find out is like she wants to be a power couple because this is like somewhat true. Obviously, when you're dealing with blockbuster hits like Eat It and Beat It, it's not as big of a thing. But like, people were getting sustained marketing wins off of these parodies when they would come out. So like the timing, to your point, of them is really important because he also wants to strike while the iron's hot. But this idea that like Madonna just has this mastermind plan of, I can write the songs, you write the parodies, we'll take over the world, is like such a fun and fantastic through line in this. I also love the scenes where Dr. Demento knows he's losing grip. He's trying to sit down with Weird Al, but of course Madonna's there because she always has to be there. We see that in every music biopic. We see it in Spinal Tap too, like that there's always like the bad influence woman. I thought Evan Rachel Wood and Daniel Radcliffe together were magic. But there's also, to your point, and we're not going to dive too much into it because it's a huge spoiler. This, like, they tell you a couple times throughout the movie that Pablo Escobar is a huge fan of Weird Al's work. It leads to absurdity that would be a spoiler, in my opinion, and this is new, so we're not going to go into it too much more than Alex recapped earlier. But, like, it is absolutely hilarious. because it was funny on its own, not knowing what it was going to lead to. Just the idea that this drug lord was thought like a surgeon was hilarious or whatever.
Right.
And then it goes into a place that only Weird Al could take you to, which is so fun. It ultimately ends up with the outcome of this movie, which we're not going to spoil here, but we will say there's a major award show involved. And before we get to that inevitable conclusion, we see Weird Al start to put the pieces together after his life is on the line in a very unorthodox way. Whereas I think in most biopics, you see the downfall of the drug addiction, which is where we were going. He almost dies in an incredibly different scenario. Madonna and him do break up, but he needs to get back to his roots. And we see him go back to his parents' house, and he works briefly at the factory so that he can reconnect with his dad. He still doesn't know what he's making. He does know that he flips a switch and I think kills somebody in the process. We see.
Well, he hit the wrong button when he hit the wrong button when he killed somebody. That's that. You gotta follow directions in a factory.
In the factory of which we still don't know what is made. But that to me felt straight out of like a UHF situation where you just see the guy like dying and nobody's really acknowledging it. And the back is so much fun. And the dinner scene with his parents is great. His mom has put on a ton of weight. She says that she's fat. She's really, really fat. And I was like, oh, fun. And then they don't really dive into that parody. They go in an entirely different direction.
They sure do.
Which I thought was hilarious. But again, we see like, and we saw this a lot in the Queen biopic too, where Freddie Mercury would be like inspired by what was going on around him, and then we would jump cut to the song that's being there. We see that again at the dinner table, and in the scene before with Another One Rides the Boss, and like it's a very, very fun through line.
I think that there's the moment of like, usually, as you said, it's usually like you hit rock bottom because of a drug addiction or whatever in these movies. And then you give the whole thing up. You got to quit cold turkey. I got to quit the life because the life is what's leading me down this path. I can't go back on the
life. Yeah.
Right. Well, I can't go back on the road touring because there's too many temptations. And I know I can't. So I got to move back home and get a job at the factory or whatever. And then is the thing that happens in all of these movies. The person that they wanted to play it straight for, and they were like, no, you're right. You're right. You were always right. I never should have followed my dreams. Like, is that what you think I was trying to tell you? I was just trying to protect you from the downfall that I experienced. Long monologue. But really, honestly, you've got a gift and you don't owe it to yourself. You don't owe it to the people. You owe it to me to go out there and give the world your gift. It's again, played entirely straight, but not at all, is wonderful. And the thing of it is that the entire thing comes to a head. I won't talk about exactly what happens in a fictitious award ceremony in 1985, at which he plays fully a song that Weird Al would not release for another 30 years.
Yes.
Or 25 years or whatever. And they never reconcile the fact that this thing set in 85, because again, once you go back far enough, if the biopics are set back far enough and you actually delve into the history, you would be shocked at how the timelines don't match up at all to what actually happened. But for the sake of telling a story in a movie, they just move everything around whenever they want to. And Weird Al saying, well, let's just do that to the most possible way possible. It was to
the fullest extent of the law.
Exactly. It is one of those movies that you really just has to be seen to be believed. I would say if you are a Weird Al fan, you probably already watched it. But if you haven't, you gotta. And if you're a Daniel Radcliffe fan, really, it's kind of an amazing thing. You got to watch this too. But really, just if you're a fan of parody in any way, this is a great movie. A lot of fun. Evan Rachel Wood, who plays Madonna, also I want to give a shout out to her as the actress, because she does such a great job with it. Really, really playing into it. The funny thing about all of this is that she is in this movie a huge part of his life, right?
Yes.
As far as anyone knows, they've never met. Weird Al and Madonna have never met. And so it's completely arbitrary that they would pick her to be this figure in his life, but I love that they did.
Well, you have to, because who's the bad influence of the 80s, right?
Right,
Like
exactly.
it's so well done, and like her whole attitude in it, she ends up being a huge piece of it. But just the idea that Weird Al was this he was the sweet innocent guy playing his accordion and writing parody songs to the tune of whatever afforded him this palatial estate, and she just shows up and just says, "I'm Madonna," like, is so perfect. Like, she's so funny, and you can see the wheels turning in her head. That's what I loved about her performance in this, of like, I'm gonna corrupt this guy, and then we're gonna take over the world as this parody artist. And Madonna, who needs no extra help, obviously, is so much fun. But yeah, the big reveal with his dad, the sincere scene about why he's always been so staunchly anti-accordion his whole life is perfect. And also the award that he's up for of like lead accordion in a extremely specific genre, or whatever the title that
perhaps not technically the best, but arguably the most famous accordion player in a very specific genre of music. I don't even know who else would be nominated for.
No,
like it's just Weird Al against himself.
Oh, isn't it him versus like Prince though, right?
Yeah,
there's like
we see when Prince loses, he gets up and leaves in a huff.
Which is also amazing, because Prince is legitimately one of the most maybe the most versatile talents of songwriting, guitar playing, vocals. Like, you would believe that he could just pick up an accordion and be one of the best at it in a very specific way. But like, it's only the two of them that are nominated. Prince loses and gets up and leaves is such a hilarious detail. So many cameos in this that are so much fun. None of them overpowering, none of them detract from the story, only add to it. Overall, just to your point, if you're a Weird Al fan, you've probably already seen it. If you haven't, it's a must-see. If you are a fan of Daniel Radcliffe or just parodies in general, it's such a blast. A very easy watch. I love that it's free. But like, this feels like such a nod to, if Weird Al decided to retire tomorrow, this is the perfect button on his career kind of thing. Like, it's such a blast. I can't believe when they released that Daniel Radcliffe was playing Weird Al, I just was what? Like, and then I saw the pictures of the way he looked and everything. He delivers, because it would be pretty easy to screw this up, I think. Like, it really would. Like, you got to be committed, and he's been doing theater work and so much serious stuff. Weird Al had tweeted like, fun movie trivia. Did you know that before Daniel Radcliffe played Weird Al, he did in fact play a boy wizard in previous movies, which I thought was so precious. Like, just such a blast. So what an easy watch. How much fun this was. I couldn't believe. To your point, there wasn't a ton that I was laughing out loud about. It was so much more of stepping back and being impressed by how witty a lot of this stuff was. Where I feel like when I watched like the Dewey Cox movie, I had tears in my eyes laughing. But I was so impressed by how artistic the parody was that I wasn't like gut laughing out loud at a lot of it. But it was so clever on itself the entire time.
Walk Hard is just gag after gag after gag, and this isn't that. Like, it is a they're telling a story. It's a completely false story, but they're telling a story the whole way through, and so that you have to like find time for that. And I thought that was some really good stuff.
Yeah, this was awesome. I love Weird Al, so this was a ton of fun. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. If you're even peripherally a fan of any of Daniel Radcliffe, Weird Al, or parodies, go dive into it. We're keeping the flick today, Alex.
Oh, the flick is being kept. Spoiler alert, probably the last time for about 6 weeks that I'm going to be doing that. Unless you let me watch Ernest Saves Christmas.
We will.
In which case,
we will do that.
In which case, I'm keeping that. But yeah, there's gonna be. Well, we're gonna get into now some Christmas movies that are not my favorite Christmas movies.
Oh, November.
Oh, November. Praying for my own December is going to be even worse than oh my God, November. But we'll get into that. Until then, thank you so much. We're keeping the flick. It's not getting out of it. We're keeping it. Both of us. Please go watch it, enjoy it, and we'll see you next week. I'm dreading it already, but thank you, everybody. It'll be a lot of fun. Good night.
RESPECT. Click the subscribe button and find out what it means to me. Nah, that doesn't have a ring to it. But if you like videos about real news stories that are funny, stupid, or weird, subscribe now.